Hello. Before we start working on the wavetable synthesizer, we'll take a look at a couple things. If you're in the library, you really need to explore a lot of the synthesizers that are in here. A cool one that goes way back, you might remember studying about the mellotron, where they actually used magnetic tape to record their sounds. Well, these are really pretty interesting samples that they have actually pulled off of actual mellotrons. They almost sound exactly like the original mellotron. So if you want to get some vintage sounds, it's a really interesting tool to look at. And if you ever want to look at any of these synthesizers directly, you can just click on them and see all the functions that are available. And again, when you see something like this, try not to panic, because there's basically sets of oscillators, you got your filters, you got your VCA, and the rest is pretty much mapping. Here are your LFOs and your two envelopes, so it's all pretty basic. Down below there's another synth here, the cinematic synth. So if I open that up and add some ambient drones, I'm going to get a different kind of sound. These cinematic synthesizers are really quite profound in their sound. They have a different kind of setup because they're built on inside track stacks with a whole set of different instruments, primarily from the retro synth. So I'm going to create a new track for a moment. Delete this old one so we don't get confused. And where it says electric piano here, we're going to go to retro synth. And inside retro synth, you'll see there's basically 4 synths inside here. We're going to go to the table, and this is basically an emulation of a wavetable synthesizer. You still have your oscillators, if you will. You still have your filter and your LFO and your outputs. It's all basically the same, but the sounds that you can get here are pretty cool. So I have some really just clean open sounds, and if I move this, I'm basically moving through the wavetable itself. And add the second synthesizer. Throw it a little bit out of tune. Makes it sound like it almost wobbles ever so slightly. So all these really interesting harmonics come out when you actually use this particular tool. Got a lot of cutoff on this right now, so I can open it up. You can hear a little bit more of the sound. So it's a pretty neat synth. What's also kind of cool is you can create your own wavetable. But before I do that, if you click over here, you can see there's a whole pile of different wavetables that have actually been created already. So here's like a modern saw. This would be great for trance. And you can modify the tone, timbre ever so slightly by how you combine the two oscillators. If you want to create your own wavetable, you need to create an audio file that has different timbres separated by space. So for a moment, I'm going to close this, and I'm going to add 4 different software instrument tracks. And in this first one, I'm going to create an empty MIDI region. I'll open it up. You might remember this from earlier units. I'm going to press Command, and I'm going to draw a note. Okay, so that's in instrument number 1, and I'm going to make that a guitar sound. And I'm going to do a hard rock. See what that sounds like. Make it a little bit longer. Okay, so it's all this is really a trigger for me right now. So what I'm going to do is copy this. There's my space between sounds into these 4 different tracks. Okay, and then quickly I'm going to change the timbre of each one of these. So this mallet instrument, I want to vibe on it. And then on this one, I'm going to jump down and change that maybe to one of these ambient drone things we just tried. And then this last one, let's see, go to synthesizer, do something kind of bright. Okay, so now I have these different sounds available. Let's just listen to them real quick. I'm going to combine all this into one audio file. So I'm going to Command A and then bounce. And I'm going to make a quick MP3 of it. Bounce. I'm going to call it Table A. Okay. And I'm going to bounce that out. I'm going to go back to my wavetable synth. On the top, I'm going to open this up. And in here where it says Modified Saw, I'm going to left click. And I want to create a wavetable from an audio file. And go to my desktop and find that table. And what happened out of those basic 4 sounds is this wavetable created 85 different unique sounds that I can hear. So what I'm going to do is move this mixer up to the first oscillator, and let's see what we hear as far as sounds are concerned. You can try and hear it switch into that vibe. Some neat sawtooth sounds over there. So then I'll take my mixer and I can combine all those timbres together. There's a lot of variety that can be created when you create your own table and mix the sounds together. It might be a little time consuming, but it is something that could be really interesting. If, for example, I was going to create a sound up here and I automated maybe that shape. So watch this for a second. I'm going to get rid of these 3. Move this one up here. Open it up. Extend it so it's a longer note. Okay. And now what I want to do is I'm going to change this on the fly as that note is actually playing. And so what I would do is put this into touch mode. And when I press play, what will happen so now I just did an automation on it, and let's see if it actually worked. Yep, it did. So now a standard sound is being morphed based on how I've mixed the wavetable together. So there's a lot of power in this particular program, especially if you automate it. I could do the same thing if I automated the filter. I could get all sorts of different kinds of sounds as I'm going through it. So wavetable synthesis is a very powerful tool. It's been used a lot. This is an incredibly brief overview of it, but at least get you started if you want to add some new sounds into your new compositions.